Rod, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, buddy. Good to see you again, Rod. And it's been a hard season for you, I know. Of course, with the COVID.
It's almost over.
I know.
Almost over.
Hey, one more road trip to Philly tomorrow, and then you got 4 home games. So the Pistons play hard. We all know that. We know they've been torn apart. Troy Weaver's done a hell of a job mixing and matching, and God bless them all. But here we go. All I watch is for Rod Beard's Tankathon computer-generated odds for the #1 pick. Explain to everybody, Rod, with that win last night, what happened? Because the other night, the Pistons, you had them with the #1 pick. Today, you got them with the #6 pick. What the hell happened?
Well, it's all just kind of random, and it goes to what the odds are. And the teams with the 3 worst records have a 14% chance of getting that #1 pick. So you can also drop because other teams are going to have that same set of odds to move up and possibly get the #1, #2, #3. And Pistons fans go by history. The Pistons have never moved up with their own pick. Even when they got Darko, that was Vancouver's pick. Mm-hmm. So they're always doom and gloom, and they think that the Pistons are going to get the worst possible pick. So even if the Pistons finish with the 2nd worst record, they could drop as low as 6. And that's what most people are assuming is going to happen.
Talking to Rod Beard here, Detroit News beat writer and the prettier or the most handsome of the Beard brothers for sure. Anyways, Rod, you've been there all along. From your vantage point from the beginning of this season to the end of this season, what kind of job has Dwayne Casey and Troy Weaver and this team done? Is there some progress there? Either players or, like you said, a few games left. And what do you take from this season so far?
Yeah, even the most pessimistic of fans would say that there's been some progress, and you can see that Sadiq Bey was a good draft pick. Isaiah Stewart was a good draft pick. Maybe the jury's still out on Killian Hayes, but he's been out for most of the season. There is that progress there that you can see in a year or two, and if the Pistons get lucky and get Cade Cunningham or a top 4 or 5 pick this year, they have the pieces where they can contend in another year or two. Just in terms of what the front office has done in assembling this roster, you can see Jeremy Grant is going to be an all-star caliber player, even if he isn't an all-star. And Mason Plumlee was a good pickup. They did the best with what they had, and to be able to flip this roster in a year is a testament to what that front office was capable of doing.
Rod Beard, you the man. And I had you on for a couple of reasons. I wanted to talk about the Tankathon. I also wanted to ask you about this question that we had. It was Dr. J, and I want to play a video from Julius Erving a couple of weeks ago when he said, they asked him about, give us your best 2 starting lineups to put on a court, and he left LeBron James off of it. Here's Julius Erving. Let's take a listen.
Well, you look at, LeBron and, anybody he sort of picks with him to be, playing with so many guys. He's the guy who has led the charge in terms of super teams being put together. Yeah. When he put together a team in Miami, he basically put together a team together in Cleveland as well, and put together a team in Los Angeles or whatever. Mm-hmm. So he could pick his own team. I ain't gonna pick his team. I ain't there. Not bad about LeBron.
Yeah, I'm not saying LeBron would argue, because I know he would probably come back to me, but he will argue that these super teams always existed. If you look at all the championship teams, they've always had 2, 3, or even sometimes 4 All-Stars.
Players weren't picking their own teams.
Thank you, Julius. Thank you. Rod, my hate relationship with LeBron James. And now here he is sitting out this weekend's games. And I know they're banged up. Anthony Davis is banged up. And the Lakers are right now sitting at the 6 hole. Then LeBron says, last year he's like, this play-in contest, this play-in playoff is great. Now this year when they're this close to being in the play-in, he says it sucks. First of all, please explain, dumb it down, the play-in games, and do you think the Lakers will be a part of that?
I think the Lakers will be a part of it. And what it is instead of the top 8 teams, which is what it's always been, the NBA took a page from the book of the NFL with the extra wild card, and seeing more fans interested in more cities, that's going to mean more money. So they allowed the 9th and the 10th place teams to be able to play their way in. So the 7 plays the 8, the 9 plays the 10, and it's this whole graph that you have to have to figure out what it is. But in essence, the number 9 and number 10 teams have an opportunity to play their way into the playoffs to be that 7 or 8 seed.
Okay, we'll see how it rolls. And by the way, my Knicks are playing pretty good this year. Probably won't win.
They're playing very good right now.
They probably won't win.
Championship, I don't know, but they'll be in the playoffs and they'll be interesting if nothing else.
And the Nets, they just can't get together. I don't see them winning this year.
Yeah, I thought they would be a little bit more healthy, and Blake Griffin would be able to help them off in a bench role and a smaller role, but they're going to need a lot of help from everybody because they can't get their starting lineup on the floor healthy for 2 or 3 straight games even. All
right, here we go. We're going to tell you our super teams, and then I'm going to ask you, because I asked you earlier, you put your super teams together. This is ours. I'm going to let D-Mac lead it off.
Do you want my first super team?
I want your first super team, okay. And Easy's got the graphic, so we'll put the graphic up.
All right, I got Zeke, Bird, MJ, Kobe, and Shaq.
Okay, that's a pretty good 5. Would you say that's a pretty good 5, Rod?
That is a pretty good 5. I don't know who plays power forward on that team, but they'll figure it out.
Okay, now Pilar.
Look, what's a power forward? Isn't there just guys that shoot and rebound and guys that can pass? I didn't know there's positions.
It doesn't matter.
You can get out there.
Power struggles can just be worked out later, all right?
All right, here's Pilar's 5, Fab 5.
Kareem, David Robinson, Kobe, Larry Bird, and Michael Jordan.
All right, rate Pilar's 5.
I like that one. It's got some potential there. David Robinson is the only one I would have a question about, but I mean, to each his own or her own. But I like that.
Like from San Antonio, bro. What do you think?
Rod doesn't like champions. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
All right, Rod. Here's mine now. I went a little bit different. I just took my favorite starting 5 that I think could beat any All-Star teams going forward. So here you go. The 73 Knickerbockers. Take a look at these guys. Look at that team. A beautiful team. You ready? Check these guys out. Walt Frazier, Earl Monroe, Willis Reed, Bill Bradley, Dave DeBusschere, Jerry Lucas, and Phil Jackson coming off the bench. My 5 could beat any of those 5. What do you think?
Your 5 is the best dressed of any of these teams. Certainly, those shoes would not be able to last. They might fall off on today's courts.
They might. All right. How about my 19? What year? Let's see. What year am I doing? 89? My 1989 Detroit Pistons. Let's show those beauties. Come on. We all know them. We love them. Isaiah and Dumars and the Worm, Lambeer, go on, so on and so forth. How about those bad boys against any of those super teams?
What people forget about the bad boys is they beat the Lakers, they beat the Celtics, they beat Michael Jordan's teams. They get forgotten about in history, and they have that spot right between that golden era and this new era with Michael Jordan. They probably could beat any All-Star team that you would put together.
And my last but not least, this is my personal favorite because I was here, the 04 Pistons. Starting 5, the going to work Larry Brown Pistons. Where the hell is Tayshaun, for crying out loud? Put Tayshaun in there. Anyway, I
thought you'd be in that picture.
Yeah, I wish. I was in the back picking up the confetti. But how about the 04? How about the 04 Pistons against any of those teams?
The 04 Pistons could probably stand up against just about anybody because they were a selfless group that just cared about winning, and they didn't have kind of all NBA, all Hall of Fame players, but they just had players who went out and played every night, and they could stand up to anybody. If they can beat Kobe and Shaq and the Lakers, they can beat just about anybody.
All right, Rod, that leaves us with your super team. Let's hear him, man.
My super team is Magic, MJ, Larry Bird, Kevin Durant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Whoa. So
I see. We were kind of on the same track with a lot of our players.
But Durant, you're the only one that picked Durant.
Yeah, you picked Durant.
He is an android. He is a scoring and defensive android. If you make a guy on a video game, that's the kind of guy that you want.
So what'd you think of Dr. J leaving LeBron out of the talk?
I think it's valid. You've got to have something in there that says LeBron didn't win all of these championships. Yes, he's been to all of these finals, but he's created these teams. And the point about those other teams being super teams already, that's because the Celtics put that team together. The Sixers put that team together and sweated through and had to add Moses Malone.
Amen.
They had Mo Cheeks and Andrew Toney and Doc and all of those other guys. They didn't have to go and just over the course of a summer have a couple of phone conversations and a Zoom and say, hey, here's our new super team that we're rolling out. And that's what LeBron's done. But that's the fans are part and parcel, and the media are part and parcel of that problem, is because we started measuring greatness in championships rather than everything in the whole ball of wax. Charles Barkley's never going to be in that conversation. Karl Malone never didn't win those championships. And we did that. We did that to ourselves.
Man, good talk.
All right, Rod, I gotta, who's your favorite right now, either for the NBA Finals or do you have a front runner to win the championship right now?
I think it's as wide open as it's ever been. I don't put any faith in these Sixers at all until I see them win and get to the finals. Joel Embiid is just going to be another guy until he does something. He's got to show me that he can carry that team to a championship. Same thing with Giannis. You can win all the MVPs that you want, but that team has got to be better and to carry them to that. I don't know if they're able to do it. And until we see what the Lakers can do or the Clippers can do, it's just a bunch of question marks. I'm not putting a lot of faith in the Jazz either until they make a nice playoff run and get to the conference finals at least.
Hey, Rod, this is Easy, the producer of The Hook. I had a real quick question. Who's your rookie of the year out of this Detroit Pistons? Because we got three of these guys that have been studs all year for us, well, in terms of how great we've been, which hasn't been that great. But who are you looking forward to most out of their future, these rookies we had this year?
I just want to see what Saddiq Bey can be. And he's shown a lot of that. It's just the consistency that he's got to do. But he was the first one to get in the starting lineup, and he's been kind of the most consistent scorer through all of that. But really all of them. Isaiah Stewart is going to be a star by the time it's all said and done. So Troy Weaver gets high marks just for bringing these guys in and identifying which ones he wanted in the draft.
Last one, Rod. Coach of the year, Tom Thibodeau?
I think so. I mean, it's that Knicks team was projected to be what the Pistons actually are. Yeah. And Tibbs has turned them into a team that's screaming at the playoffs. And Julius Randle is going to be – I mean, I thought Jeremy Grant was going to be most improved player, and there wasn't even a discussion about it. But when you look at Julius Randle, that makes it a very good discussion about which of those guys should get it.
And how big is D-Rose? I'm huge on culture. How big has D-Rose been into that locker room? Because, that's sort of been the spark. And just to see him, as the player sort of, even when I don't know who it was that got injured, but then he heard it after the game, and just the compassion about work. And so you've been around him even when he was here, and everybody at LCA has glowing remarks for him. But to me, he's sort of the glue in that room. Can you speak on him a little bit about maybe what he's brought to that team?
We're not supposed to have favorite players or guys that we root for, but D Rose is a guy that you root for because he's been through so much with his injury, and he just has such a calm spirit about himself that just says, hey, it's not about me anymore. It's about Killian Hayes. My job is to make Killian Hayes better. And for a guy to be where he has been and to have that type of attitude is just so rare in this league. And now to go back to the Knicks and to be with Tibbs and to elevate that team with his professionalism. And again, the selfless spirit of, I don't have to start. I don't have to be the star of this thing. I just have to make everybody else better. So he's shown just this year that he can step in two different roles with two different teams on two different levels and have the same impact. People talk about what Chris Paul does when he goes to a new team. We're seeing that Derrick Rose can have a similar type of impact.
That's awesome. Gives me chills for you, when somebody says that, hey, this is a guy we cheer for, we're not supposed to.
And he's a real deal.
The right way.
Real deal.
He's the real deal. Real human being, real personality, and he takes his responsibility seriously as a pro and as a guy who has to talk to the media. He's never had a hey, I don't want to talk to you guys, or let's get this over quick. He's never had that type of attitude with us.
That's awesome.
Hey, we all keep saying to each other, hey, one more question. Let's let Rod go.
I got time. Let's go.
I know. We're running out of time. We know we don't want to hold you up because we want to have you back for the playoffs. But the other day we were talking about the Pistons, what could have been, obviously, the last time they picked in the top three, and they took Darko, and then you got Carmelo, and you got Wade, and you got Bosh. Right? I just want to get Rod here on Woodward Sports. You got those three Hall of Famers. Right? What could have been, man, in the 03? Would they have won the next year? How about the year after and the year after if they take Carmelo?
Yeah, that's the big debate, and I think Carmelo was the pick that they probably would have made, and it just remains to be seen. But at least you would have had a building block for that time after. And as good as those years were when they were making the conference finals every year and they won that championship, the teardown of that thing was the absolute go, and seeing Ben in a Bulls jersey. You're just in this alternate bizarro world of what the heck are we looking at? How did it end this way? And Carmelo might have helped to keep that together a little bit longer, but we, for doggone sure, will know that Darko didn't do anything to help. For
crying out loud, he's 9th all-time scoring now, Carmelo. It's amazing.
It's amazing what he's done, and just the longevity. But again, he's gone to different teams, and he is what he is. He's a scorer, and he's a mercenary. If you need him to come in and get buckets, he will get buckets for you.
All right, Rod, we got to have you on in another couple of weeks when the playoffs get rolling.
All right, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, everybody, read Rod. Don't forget Det News Rod Beard on Twitter. Make sure you check him out. The best stuff always with the Pistons and NBA in general. Great guy. Thanks, Rod.
All right, guys. When we come back.